The Seattle Seahawks have had their 2025 Football Fest, which includes the mock game. What's going on, everybody? Good morning. Hope things are going well. And the Seattle Seahawks have done their annual Football Fest, which of course includes the annual mock game. This happened last night. It got done pretty much, I want to say around like 7:30 or 8 o'clock, maybe 8:30 at the latest. And we got a nice little trickle of information from the beat reporters. And I thought about making a video yesterday. I could have if I really wanted to, but it wouldn't have gotten up until pretty late. And it would have had to have been a fairly brief overview, I think. So I decided I'll just wait and I'll do a longer video the next day. Don't know if that was the right thing to do or not, but regardless, we have a lot of information to look at now. And we're going to get a pretty good picture of what happened on the field because one particular guy, you guys probably know who it is, did a very good job giving play-by-play on X. There's one particular guy who really went above and beyond here. We'll see him in a minute here. But yeah, Football Fest. This was something that people could attend. I did not this year. I know some people who did. There were some people in my Discord server who did. A lot of fun, but it is very inconvenient for me to get up there for the most part, so did not do it. But we can still learn a pretty good amount from the coverage we get, even if we can't watch the game. Please click the thumbs up button on this video, subscribe if you're new, click the bell for notifications, become a channel member for $2 a month. Those are the best ways to support the channel. Let's go ahead and crack it open here, starting with some pregame notes. So this is stuff from before the game started because, of course, Football Fest is not just about the game. There's a few other things going on. And during the pregame, one thing that was notable was that Brady Russell was the one doing long snaps because Chris Stoll is injured. I don't know what Chris Stoll's situation is exactly, but Brady Russell is apparently the emergency long snapper. And given that Brady Russell is already kind of doing tight end stuff, but he can do a little bit of fullback stuff, this is how you make the roster. This is how you find a way on the team. Maybe this guy will be more valuable to us than Eric Saubert, even though Saubert might be a better pure tight end. So good for him. But for anyone who is wondering, I don't think very many people were, that is your emergency long snapper, it looks like. Some players that did not play in this game. We've got Ken Walker. He's probably the big one, right? We'll talk more about Ken Walker a little bit later, but suffice to say, it doesn't sound like it's too big of a deal. Cross is the other big one, but we knew about that. We didn't expect him. Most everyone else is kind of small. Ricky White, Montori, obviously, Josh Ross, Steven Sims, John Charles, Shamar John Charles. And that was mostly it in terms of the players that didn't play. There were a couple who were clearly very limited, which we'll talk about a little later. But if you were wondering who didn't participate, this is a pretty definitive list. Special team stuff, because that's not going to get super tight coverage during the game itself. Some of the guys who were taking punts included Torrey Horton. Apparently he did have one fumble on a punt return, so we don't love that. But that's one of the guys we're taking a pretty clear look at, and I'm really hoping he can do it because that would make things a lot easier when the season starts. Another guy who was fielding kicks was Jake Bobo, which that's a little tough for me to imagine working out because that's not really his game. I mean, if he can do it, great. That gives flexibility, I guess, but hard for me to believe that Jake Bobo is going to be your kick returner when the season starts. Starting offensive line was Jones, Zabel, Olu, Bradford, Lucas. So still those five. Obviously, Cross will get his job back when he's healthy. Bradford continues to hold on to that top right guard spot, although we did learn something about Christian Haynes today, or I should say yesterday. We'll get to that later. Notable. And as for Haynes, for the moment, he did participate a little bit in the warm-ups. He was warming up with the twos, the backups, as a left guard between Sundle and Gerald. I don't mind the idea of trying Haynes at left guard. His game might suit left guard better. He might be more of a finesse player, and left guard might actually do well for him. So I don't mind that at all. The issue being that if he's a left guard, he's probably your backup because of Zabel. And if he's not out there, then he's not really helping you win. But we'll talk more about Haynes later, because that situation is a little more clear, but no less unclear at the same time. We'll get to that. Okay, so now we get to the game here. This video is going to be long, by the way, but this is mostly going to be looking at just Curtis Allen's X threads, because he was the one guy who was doing a really good job tweeting pretty much everything that happened. Or, yeah, they still call it tweeting, right? So most of this video is going to be looking at what he posted. Opening kickoff, Helani and Horton were doing the returns. Again, really like the Horton thing. Helani's interesting too, because there's room on the running back depth chart for him now. If he proves he can do that, then maybe we carry 4 running backs. Darnold to Charbonnet in the flat for 12 yards. Third down back. That's pass catching back. Love it. A lot of good stuff that I heard from DeMarcus Lawrence in this game. Apparently he had a good game. DeMarcus Lawrence blows up Bradford to stop a Charbonnet run loss of 2. Remember, Charbonnet is the starting back because Walker is currently dinged up. But a lot of good stuff from D-Law. Obviously, it comes at the expense of Bradford, which, I mean, everything that happens in this game is going to be mixed, right? Because in order to get something, somebody else has to give something. But D-Law looking good. Darnold to Arroyo, incomplete. Reek Woolen breaks it up. Darnold to Horton, didn't work. And then you see a shift change. And this is something that happens throughout this game. They go from one unit to another unit, and then they go to another unit, then they go back to the first unit, then they go to the third unit, and it just keeps going and going, right? It's not, the game itself is not so important. What's important is sequences and synchronization. So don't worry about the final score. Now, back to Christian Haynes. He, to my understanding, did not play at all in the scrimmage. This is from earlier in the game. No sign of Haynes in this portion of the scrimmage. My understanding is that he never got out there. And there is, as it turns out, a pretty good reason for that. Not that that's going to necessarily make people feel better, because bottom line is, this is a guy who I fully expected, and many fully expected, to start this year. And he's currently not making any progress towards earning that job. We'll get to why later. A lot of notable stuff from Milroe in terms of the typical ups and downs, right? His accuracy in this game generally was quite bad, but he did show his athleticism. Allen outlines a couple plays he had where he runs and scrambles, and that's something that kind of keeps popping up throughout this game. We have a Martinez run as well from a Milroe audible, so you see the other units coming in here and making good things happen. Back to drills, so we have a one-on-one in red zone sequence. Witherspoon making good plays in the end zone. Saubert does bring down a touchdown. JSN tangles with Spoon. Darnold places it perfectly. So JSN, last couple days, he's beaten Woolen for a touchdown in practice. Now he's beaten Witherspoon for a touchdown in practice. So seems like he's feeling it. And Darnold's job as starting QB is very safe. That is one thing that Curtis in particular noted at the end of the Football Fest. Darnold is not losing his starting job right now. There's no way. He looks like clearly the best quarterback. And overall, it seems like he had a pretty good day yesterday as well. Another sequence here in the red zone. Barner and Emenwari tangle and hand fight for the ball. Barner comes up with it. Really, really think that Barner could end up surprising people and taking more snaps than some people expect from Arroyo. Torrey Horton brought in a great pass as well. Cam Alexander covered all over him. Didn't matter. Horton continues to have a really great week. Really, really earning some playing time here. And I love it. I love it. Back to the scrimmage. So, again, like, this really emphasizes how kind of I don't want to say disorganized, but how kind of random the mock game is. You're not really playing a full game. You're just trying to roughly simulate getting ready and preparing yourself and going out there and warming up and then playing in something that resembles a game. We've got more stuff with the running game getting bogged down in the backfield. JSN beats Woolen again, so big day for JSN. It looks like he had one of the best days of any player in the mock game. Abe Lucas taking on Jaron Reed, holding his own, so Lucas looks healthy. Holani tries to run to the right. Knight and Ernest both get in there and take him down. So it doesn't feel like the running game overall was great during at least the early part of the scrimmage. That was one thing I kind of took away as I was reading these updates. Once we got into some of the backup stuff, excuse me, you got a nice run from Martinez. Martinez seemed to have a pretty good day. Sheriff gets in Locke's face quickly, but he dumps it to Charbonnet. I would assume that backup offensive line, especially right now, is probably not cutting it. Maybe they're good at run blocking or decent at run blocking, but the pass blocking stuff is probably lost to them, especially with Jones with the ones. That's probably dicey. Still no Haynes. Again, to my knowledge, that was consistent throughout. More Milrow scrambles. Takes off down the sideline. RPO, he keeps it. That is the stuff with him that is going to be fun. Like, I can't deny it. Even if he ends up not being a great quarterback, this stuff is still going to be fun at some point. And there is value there for sure. That is an X factor that is hard to quantify entirely. We got more one-on-ones from the 35, so this is like the red zone drill, except it starts a little further out. So basically it's like a, what do they call it? The green zone, when you're not quite in the red zone, but you're getting there. Locke hits Horton for a touchdown, beating Pritchett. So Horton continues to have a really good day. Emin Wari, good coverage on Arroyo on a 10-yard out. Again, I'm really... And we may see something different when the season starts, don't get me wrong. But that Emin Wari has showed so little negative stuff so far, to me is really exciting, because I was ready for some of the rough stuff. So far, haven't seen a ton of that. I'm not saying it won't be there in the season, but what we've heard so far has been very positive. Milrow to Plumler on a deep slant. I'm not familiar with Plumler. That must be one of the really deep UDFAs we have. Great throw, pillow soft touch, which that's exactly what we need to see from Milrow at some point. The ability to put touch on the ball. The ability to throw something soft. Not everything needs to be a fastball. So to hear that, that definitely gets my attention. Scrimmage resumes. Zabel comes up with a nice run block to clear the way for Charbonnet. So far, I haven't heard any indication that Zabel looks overwhelmed or he's not ready. Like, this is a world of difference from what we heard from Christian Haynes for some of last year. Another play by JSN, another big play by JSN with Witherspoon in coverage. He is beating both our top corners and our top outside corners too. So great stuff going on there. That's really, really exciting. Another play by Lawrence on the run. Not jet sweep, jet deep. I always default to saying jet sweep, but Charbonnet jet sweep would be pretty weird anyway. But anyway, Lawrence having a great offseason so far. Really liking what that signing is doing for this team right now. And it goes beyond just the stuff you see on the field. More stuff from Horton. Josh Jones handles Derek Hall, which... I mean, I hope we never find out what Josh Jones can do for us, because he never has to play this year because the starters stay healthy. But, you know, I'll take the wins where I can get them. Delayed handoff to Martinez up the middle for almost 10 yards. It feels like Martinez probably had a better day running the ball than Charbonnet. I will say that Charbonnet is not the greatest fit in the world for this run scheme. I still think Charbonnet is a good player, but don't be surprised if he ends up mostly a third down back this year, and... There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Bradford and Amari Knight move bodies on the right side for a Martinez run. I mean, hey, those guys can run block, right? They have problems. They're not great players, at least not yet. Especially, I mean, mostly we're talking about Bradford because he's the one that matters, but he's powerful. He is certainly powerful, and you see it occasionally. All right, bumping along here, back to the threes. So again, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, go in, go out, go in, go out. Milrow delayed run up the middle, so using his legs more, which I don't think he's going to get to play quarterback anytime soon, but if he does, definitely get used to that, and probably for the best. Probably for the best that he leans on that as much as possible. Jarcarda Wright, don't know much about him, but I do know he's one of our back-end players. Really good run from him. Back to the 1v1s near midfield. Seems to me, I mean, I'm thinking about previous football fests that I've read about. I don't remember this much swapping in and out. So it feels like the coaching staff is really trying to test them, really trying to put them in awkward situations and see how they survive it. Nice run by Sharp here. Offensive line shows some good run blocking. Spoon almost picks off Darnold looking for Cup. So that's first play since earlier during the some of the one-on-ones in the red zone that Spoon shows up in an over-the-top way. We do get a Cup completion shortly after, though. And still no Christian Haynes, even when the twos come in. Again, we'll talk more about that by the end of this video. We got more kickoff stuff. We've got Halani still, but we've also got Hall. Don't think there's a path for Hall on the roster. Obviously, this isn't Derek Hall, by the way. In fact, I can't even remember the first name of the Hall that they're talking about in this tweet. And I follow this team pretty closely, so, you know, good luck to him, but not likely. And this was the one significant injury that I heard about from today in terms of something new. Not to say that there weren't other bumps and bruises, but AJ Finley got carted off about this point. And just to go ahead and spoil it, we'll mention it again before the video ends, but it looks bad. He looks like he's toast. And AJ Finley didn't have a great chance of making the team in the first place, but I think he could have made the practice squad. And it looks like his season's over now, and this happens to every team every year, but you know, just thinking about what that must be like. You wait all year for the season to start, and then your season ends before it started. Not easy. Not easy. Not easy to imagine. So at this point, this had been going on for close to an hour now. Curtis Allen gave some props to the offense. Offensive line was mixed, but not bad. Ones versus ones, not whipping the defense, but have nothing to be ashamed of. I mean, if the offense is holding their own against the defense, I'm very happy with that, because this defense is tough. This defense is going to be hard to crack, so I can take that. And some other people, not Curtis Allen, but I saw some other people who were there who mentioned they think the offense looks a lot better right now than it did the same time last year. And you can see how Ryan Grubb, for all of his good ideas, didn't have a very good understanding of what it would take to succeed in the NFL, and he never figured it out. This is the benefit of this is, I think, the Kubiak stuff. And I think it's also the offensive line being at least a little bit better. I don't think we have a bottom 3 offensive line this year, guys. Maybe it'll be bottom 8. I don't think it'll be bottom 3. And maybe that's all you need. More plays from Curtis Allen here. 2s versus 1s. So this is the backup offense versus the starting defense. It's exactly what you would expect. Drew Lock getting pressured constantly. Leo Williams eating up that backup offensive line. Basically DOA, right? Now they swapped out, so it was the starting offense versus the backup defense. They got some yards with Charbonnet up the middle. They got Barner on a quick throw, and he brought it in traffic. Sundle was the right guard. Bradford was with the backups, so therefore, instead of Lomia, instead of Haynes, it's Sundle. So something might be happening here, and we as Seahawks fans, I think, need to at least be prepared for the possibility that Jalen Sundle is going to actually, maybe he won't get a starting job, but he's going to beat out guys like Haynes and Lomia, who were draft picks. And that happens. Nothing wrong with it sometimes, but it would be very surprising. More runs from Charbonnet. O'Connell sniffs it, but Sharps makes him miss in the backfield. We got a Darnold to Cup completion, another Cam Alexander coverage play where he cannot quite make the play. Big run from Sharp, finally starts to get some traction here. Oots and Abe leading the way. Oots moves Jamie Sheriff out of the play. First time we heard Oots' name during this mock game. Really, really cool. Really, really good. Really, really exciting. And that's what we were hoping to get from him, right? Move people out of the way and give us something that very few teams in the NFL have. Big time stuff from a fullback. Had a Myers 50-yard field goal here. Milroe hit a deep sideline throw to Broden. Very good coverage from Cam Alexander. Cam Alexander probably even committed PI on the play, and Broden still brought it in. I mean, that's exciting on a couple different levels, right? Because it's Broden. Broden, very intriguing player. Very fun player. It probably won't work out, but it's still fun to imagine what a guy of his natural physical talent could do with some competent receiving skills. More red zone. We've got Milroe inaccurate pass. We got a D'Anthony Bell play behind the line of scrimmage. So he's a guy who's obviously going to make the roster at this point, but can he help on defense? It seems like the answer is yes. And this was apparently the final play of the mock game period. Milroe hitting Broden with a in-traffic throw for a touchdown. That was the final play of the red zone period. So good way to end it for two guys that are very interesting, right? Milroe and Broden. Broden's, I think, more of a long shot than Milroe. And I don't think you guys know how I feel about Milroe, but Broden's a different level. Regardless, cool to see maybe something developing there. Always going to take that as good news. And that was basically it. So we did get some post-game information and some post-game thoughts. I'll go through that now. But big shout out to Curtis Allen once again. He was the only guy I saw this year that was offering stuff like this. Just legitimately doing play-by-play on X. So again, his overall takeaways from the end of the game, offense looked pretty good. The starting defensive line did not dominate the offensive line, which I'm definitely going to take as good news. I know there's a second way to read that, but I'd rather have a competent offensive line than the greatest defensive line in the league and an offensive line that can't get out of their own way. Run game was committed on offense. I don't get the sense the run game was great, but it does seem like they were committed to it, which is what people are going to be looking for. Horton, of course, we talked about Horton already. Christian Haynes is either hurt or benched, and we find out about the answer to that a little bit later in this. And he still doesn't think that right guard spot is solidified. Now, I am getting the sense that Oluwatimi has the center spot basically locked up. Maybe McDonald won't say it, but it feels like we're good. Feels like he's just decided this is what we're going to do. And that's probably for the best right now. But number one right guard, I would guess it's Bradford, but I'm prepared for anything. So this is the one injury that happened during the game that I'm aware of. AJ Finley getting carted off. And again, the news was bad. It looks like bad news for him. McDonald did give his post-game press conference, and the thing that he led off with, probably the most relevant thing to us right now, no starters for the Seahawks versus the Raiders in the preseason opener. So it's still going to be very interesting, but you're not going to see Darnold or JSN or Witherspoon or Woolen or any of those guys. I don't think anyone's going to object to that too hard, but it makes things a little less interesting, I guess. But it's not like we need to know if those guys are going to make the team or not. This is McDonald talking about how he thinks the AJ Finley injury is not good, which, I mean, you'd think he would take a more optimistic bend if there was some possibility of life there. So, again, not encouraged by that at all. This is where he talked about Christian Haynes. This is, again, what we were discussing earlier briefly. He's got a pec injury. So that explains a lot, right? That explains why he's not out there. He is doing one-on-one stuff. He is suited up. Therefore, it's not terrible. And McDonald did indicate that he thinks he'll be fine. And he also said that Ken Walker's going to be fine. He's just resting his foot. So I'm not worried about anything there. But the pec injury with Christian Haynes, maybe it reduces the concern that the team is done with him already and he just doesn't have it. But the problem is now he can't be out there earning the job. And that's certainly not good. So hopefully that clears up soon. This is him talking about Ken Walker a little bit more. Soreness in his foot. He's fine, just taking care of him going through camp. Don't like to hear this for sure, but at the same time, I'm not surprised that Ken Walker's missing some practice time. It makes sense to keep a player like him off the practice field as much as you can. For whatever it's worth, today is going to be a day off for the Seahawks. He called it a well-deserved day off tomorrow, and obviously this tweet was yesterday. So don't expect anything from practice today. This is probably the only update we're going to get. Maybe we'll get some injury stuff, but this is this is their day off, which makes sense. They've been going at it all week. Some notes from Curtis Crabtree, who I believe was also there. Not sure if he was or not. I didn't see a ton from him yesterday, but JSN had a really good game, which echoes what I saw from Curtis. Corey Horton continues to be really good. And he talks about Milroe a little bit. Really nice throws downfield, also using his legs, but the accuracy is not entirely there. And that seems consistent with what I saw from people talking about this game. So if you want the quick rundown on the really exciting stuff, one final thing I want to put out there, because people are forgetting about this guy, myself included. A lot of people assume he cannot make this team, but Derek Young had a good game as well. He caught at least one touchdown, maybe two. Couldn't quite get clarity on that. This is a guy who has very exciting physical tools. He's smart. There's some interesting stuff going on here, but now we might see some production. So don't be shocked if Derek Young shocks the world and actually makes the team, even though we're running a light on receiver offense, even though Derek Young is somebody who's been here for a few years now without production. Don't count the guy out. Okay, so this was a super long video. I usually don't make them this long. I try not to. But for Football Fest, I was obligated to give everything I had. That's why you wait. That's why you don't make the video right after, which, again, could have done. Didn't do it. And, yeah, that's about it. So everyone have a great rest of your day, and go Hawks.